If you want to get the best sound in your home studio, no matter what speakers, acoustic treatment or gear you have, you need to watch this video. As you can see, I've built a new studio and I try to get the best sound possible so I can hear better what I'm doing when producing, and after all this time, now I have a lot of tips for you. The first thing you need to make sure is the acoustic treatment. Of course, if you use headphones, you don't need it, but if you use speakers, you do. The sound from your speaker is going to bounce in the walls, in the floor, in the ceiling, in the desk, everywhere. And that is gonna affect a lot the sound that you hear in the end. It's going to create some boost and some reductions in different frequencies, so in the end you don't hear a flat frequency response. You don't hear exactly what you're making in your DAW. Of course, you don't need to cover the entire room with panels like these ones. As you can see, I have a space between them, I don't have anything down there, but in the end, the more the better. If you want to know how many panels you need to get a quite decent sound in your room, I recommend you going to GAK Acoustic website. There you can put the size of your room and it's going to tell you the minimum, the recommended and the most effective number of panels for your room. You can also ask them for free advice, and also they have a really cool thing that is a 3D tool. Here you create your room, you put the colors of the walls and this, you put a desk, whatever you want to put, and then you can choose, for example, these panels or other panels that they have. You put it in the room so you can see visually how it's gonna look in your room. That's what I did here before choosing all of this. Of course, the panels need to go in specific places. You cannot just put it where you want. The bass traps need to go in the corners. I have the turbo traps because I like them, the design is cool, and it's super important to cover the corners because it's where the bass is gonna boost more. It's gonna sit there, and if you don't have that treated, you're gonna have way too much bass in your room. Then you need to cover the early reflections of the speakers. In my studio building series here on YouTube, I have a video where I explain the mirror trick, and that is gonna tell you where you need to put the acoustic panels. Apart from this, if you can put some panels in the front wall, in the back wall, and in the ceiling. Of course, sometimes it's not possible to do all of this, but if you can do it, better. And a lot of you are telling me to put a carpet in this studio to control the floor reflections, but that's not an option. I live in a really hot place and that would be crazy, especially in summer. Apart from controlling the acoustics, it's super important the speaker placement. But to be honest, here there's not really a right place where you need to put them. Sometimes it's better to have them really close to the front wall, sometimes it's better to leave some space, have them a bit separate between them, a bit closer. Some guides I can give you is to have the speakers at the 20% of the room length from the front wall, never at 25%. That will create phase problems and shit. Also, speakers you have a manual, and in this manual probably they're gonna tell you what's the best distance from the walls to the front of the speaker. For example, if it tells you that the front of the speaker needs to be at least 50 centimeters from the walls, then have it closer. In this manual also is going to tell you the minimum distance between the speakers. This is also really important. Another thing for the speakers is that the distance between the speakers needs to be the same distance from each speaker to you. You need to create an equilateral triangle, but sometimes it's better if you are inside this triangle. Also, probably you know this, the height needs to be at ear level, but sometimes people get this a bit wrong. People tell you that you need to have the tweeter at ear level, but it's better to have at ear level the spot between the tweeter and the subwoofer. Last but not least, rotate them to look at your ears, and just that. When you have this, maybe you don't have the best sound possible. That's what happened to me. And here comes the third tip. Use a measuring tool like Room EQ Wizard. Basically, it's a program that is going to measure the sound that you have in your sweet spot, where you're going to be listening. My advice here is that in your sweet spot, record it several times, and maybe move a little bit, because you're not going to be like always exactly here. You're maybe going to be here, maybe here. Another day you're gonna be here. So it's better to have some different measurements. When you have the average of all of that, then try to move the speakers. Move them closer, move them far away from each other, move them closer to the front wall, farther from the front wall. Maybe keep the speakers where they are and move the sweet spot. Maybe you can be closer, maybe you can be farther away. Measure in a lot of different spots and then compare and get the best one. In the end, depends on your room, the speakers, the acoustics, and blah 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 blah. But the best thing you can do after all of this, when you have the acoustic treatment, where you have the speakers at the best spot possible, when you are at the sweet spot that is the best one possible, and you measure everything and all of that, my advice is that you use a program like Sound ID by Sonarworks. This is gonna be fun. Okay, this is like a game. Basically, what you're gonna do is you're gonna measure in different spots around your sweet spot how it's gonna sound. This is gonna recreate a sine sweep from 0 to 20,000 Hertz every time, and it's gonna get the average. Basically, here it's gonna tell you, okay, in your sweet spot, instead of hearing a flat frequency response, you have a 6 dB boost in 100 Hertz, and then you have a cut in 1000 Hertz, and then you have a boost in 7000. But the cool thing about this is that Sound ID, what it's gonna do is apply an inverted EQ. So where you have a 6 dB boost, it's gonna apply an EQ EQ that is reducing 6 dB. Where the sound has a 3 dB cut, it's gonna boost 3 dBs. So this way, then, when you are in your sweet spot and you have this activated, that I recommend you to have it always, you're gonna hear a flat frequency response. So basically, you're gonna hear exactly what you are making. And trust me, this helps so much when you're making music. You work way faster and you get way better sound. I hope all these tips help to get a better sound in your home studio. See you in the next video.